Well, welcome to this next edition of Backstage. We're so glad you're loyal to the program. And as I was just talking to Paul Eisen, we've got quite a bit of backstage recordings built up. So go back and visit them. There's good stuff there. We're always trying to do everything we can to widen the horizon of the people we have as guests. And today is no exception. In fact, it's really special. You and I are working on notes and scheduling and getting the right program put together. And I'm not sure we ever think about this huge machine back here called the government, who's doing great things to make it possible that we can have music in our schools. And quite frankly, I don't think we would think about it until somebody went, here, this is it. Lynn Tuttle, she serves as the Director of Public Policy and Research and Professional Development for the National Association for Music Education. She also sports a performance degree in flute, and she's an outstanding singer. Well, she's one of us. She's a musician, right? And so this is so special to have her here today as a guest, because she's one of the people that puts a stake in the ground and explains to us what's going on behind the scenes. So welcome, Lynn Tuttle. Tell us what's going on in your day today.
Great. Thanks, Tim, and thanks for including me as part of this production. I really feel very honored to be here and to be backstage with Dr. Tim. All right, so what's going on? I'm trying to think about things we've been thinking about today. We are keeping an eye on Congress, which right now actually isn't that hard to do because they're not doing much, unfortunately. So it's pretty easy because you just check in and they're not doing anything and you're like, oh, they're not doing anything again. I'm sure this is shocking to no one, we're in the midst of campaign season. And once that clock starts ticking down, Congress spends less time being members of Congress and doing their congressional work and focusing on campaigning. And that's where we are right now. So they are campaigning away, and what got left on the table, I think, unfortunately, was the material for the next stimulus package. And we were hopeful that next stimulus package would include backfilling of state education budgets. And depending on where you live in the country, that may mean more or less to you. In some places, the state actually funds the majority of the public education budgets that come down to your local school districts. In some places, it's more on your local property taxes, but in other states, the states really do make a huge difference, especially in those states that have been really hit by the recession. We're starting to see cuts in terms of education funding. In fact, my colleague Matt Baruch right now is listening to the Missouri State Board of Education as they try to figure out what to do with the public education cuts that Missouri just enacted through the Missouri governor's veto. So we were hoping for the stimulus dollars to include additional dollars for the states to backfill those education budgets, to hold education as fully funded as possible as compared to the past. Still, fingers crossed that we might see some of that, but it'd probably be post the election. And so that's what we're keeping an eye on at the federal level. And we do actually have a grassroots advocacy campaign up on our website if you want to write to your members of Congress and tell them that these dollars are needed.
Yeah, wow. Okay, well, that's it. You got
Sorry.
enough there, folks, to chew on for a while. That's great. I have a personal question, because
Sure.
people don't grow up saying, this is what I want to do in life. How did you morph into this extraordinary position?
That's a great question, Tim. And I remember I was sitting on a briefing at Congress with NAFME back before I was a staff member, and Chris Woodside asked me that same question. And I said, well, Chris, when I was in high school, I would practice, I'd get home from school and I'd practice flute for about an hour and a half, and then I'd take a break, right, to go watch Washington Week in Review and the McLaughlin Report. And I paused and I said, I think we always knew I would get here, right? I'd find this way to marry my music and music education and teaching that I loved and the policy world. I've always been intrigued by both sides of that work.
Well, your job before this one was Arizona at the state
Right.
level, yes?
I was at the
What
Arizona
did you do
Department of
there? Yeah.
Education.
What was that?
I was the CDARE, right, the Director of Arts Education for the state of Arizona, and that job entailed seeing the standards revision process through for the state, teacher licensure. So we redid how teacher licensure worked in the state of Arizona, approving teacher prep programs, working with the state ed associations, so Arizona music educators, our educators, dance theater educators with their professional development, assessment, curriculum, and really not curriculum writing, right? In Arizona, that was really local control, but how could I help folks as they worked with their curriculum attached to the standards? And I also did work on the federal law on No Child Left Behind. I monitored districts for their use of Title I dollars, which is why I got to know the federal law so well before coming to the national level.
You know, I loved it when you said I'd practice and then I would go, listen to Washington, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking I would watch reruns of Gilligan's Island and then get yelled at for not
Well, I like
practicing.
Bugs Bunny too, but
Okay, we're there.
yeah.
We're in. I have to tell you, not to make you feel good, but you're one of the most compelling speakers I've ever been around.
Wow. Are
No,
you sure?
when you talk, I am mesmerized. They say a great speaker is somebody who can push everything aside and go right in the people are, and that's because you bring us such good information. What can you tell the people? And most of us are teachers that are watching this. What do we need to know to support our own programs that you can decipher and share with us in a way we can understand it?
Need to know about how the government
Yes.
connection, or need to know right now? So first and foremost, and I know that you talk to teachers about this all the time, Tim, it's really about getting to know and be able to speak about your program and share your program locally, right? With your building administrator, who's probably a great ally of yours, with your superintendent, and with that school board. Make certain that your school board members are connected to your program. Get them invited. If you're still fortunate enough to have in-person events, get them there. If not, invite them into your virtual classroom. Let them come experience what you're doing with the kids. Share out, even send them emails if you can with recordings of what the kids are up to. Whatever is possible within your district and approved by your administrator, get those school board members attached to what you're doing right now, because they have to figure out policies, procedures, and most importantly, budgets, especially as go into next school year. They're going to be their budgets in most states, in most school districts, budgets are going to be so constrained next school year that you want to be seen as a positive force. You want your program to be seen as a positive force. You want them to think, I absolutely cannot cut the music and arts programs because I know what they're doing for kids. And the only way they know is if you share your stories, if you make certain that you're sharing, your parents are sharing, your students are sharing. They need to know. And don't assume that they know. You've got to make it crystal clear. You got to give them the information.
So communication is everything.
Absolutely. And you've got such great stuff to communicate, right? It's not, this isn't, Debbie Downer stuff. This is about kids making music, kids connecting, kids sharing their stories, kids growing. You have all of those great stories to share. So continue to do that. I know many of you know how to do that like the back of your hand in normal times. You're going to have to step up that work right now because, again, like you, school board members are stressed and they're going to want some of these feel-good stories, and you can provide them.
Well, that is great advice. So many people, and I'm sure they call you too, Lynn, will go, oh, my program's in trouble. Give me some advocacy. And I'm like, oh, that should have been happening
Right.
all the time. Yeah,
Right.
you just go plant, harvest. There's a space in there. Particularly during these times, and I just loved it when you said invite them into your virtual classroom.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've got hybrid, we've got online, we've got everything that's possible in the puzzle. For those of us who are spending a lot of time online teaching, help us. What would you do? Because you're like really smart about this.
Oh, boy. So I would get them making music as much as possible. And I know that's hard because we're not together, right?
Yeah.
But it's okay to mute everyone and have everyone play together or have everyone sing together. If you can't hear them, just see that they're engaged in music making as much as possible. and invite them to share with you how they want to make music, right? This is also an opportunity where we can experiment. Since we don't have them in our large ensembles, or we don't have them in our normal general music classrooms maybe, what do they want to do? Is the music that they're listening to that maybe we can riff off of? Can we be helping them compose in a style that they like? Can we help them explore world musics that maybe we're not as comfortable with, but maybe they know more than we do, right? So I also think it's a time, um, I've seen a lot, I've both presenters and in writing about education, I was like, we need to be patient with our students and patient with each other and give each other grace. Great, well, how about experiment, right? How about open up to the fact that you know a lot as a music educator, more than your students on most things, but you don't know everything. So why don't you engage them and invite them to share what they know and see what you can grow together. And again, when maybe there's time here where we can do this where we normally don't in a traditional cycle when we're in school, because we've got the upcoming concerts and we got the upcoming solo ensembles and we know what all of that schedule looks like. That schedule is kind of broken right now. So maybe, just maybe, I invite you to enjoy that flexibility and think a little differently, and engage your students in that thinking differently. It could be fun, stressful, I'm sure, but it could be fun too.
I mean, that's great. I mean, you just gave a list of, of a whole bunch of really action things they can do, real things they can do. I'm going to take a little left turn on you here, Lynn. Tell us about the National Association for Music Education and the importance it plays for all of us who are music educators and what we should do about it.
Thank you. Well, hopefully everyone listening is a member, and if not, you're going to renew or join up. We see ourselves certainly at the national level as we are the national voice for music education. We are your advocates with the federal government. We work with the U.S. Department of Education. We're on Capitol Hill when we can be. Right now, we're doing that virtually to represent the interests of music education, to make certain that at the federal level, music's included in public education law, and that there are opportunities for music educators and arts educators at the ground to gain access to federal funds. So that's sort of the advocacy part of the work. We've also really stepped up, especially in this era of COVID-19, some extraordinary professional development offerings. They're all on the front side of our website. They're all recorded, and we've got new ones coming up, and just brilliant educators sharing their work. Whether that's Rob Lida bringing on conductors who are writing different types of pieces for this moment in time that are adaptable and flexible for the grouping that you've got and the repertoire you might need, to Dr. Rob Lida, who is our General Music Council Chair, who's been bringing lots of guests, folks who've specialize in Kodai and in ORF and in fire oven approaches, to say, here's how you can do it virtually. Here's how you can do it in a hybrid situation. Here's how you can do it if you happen to be, a general music educator on a cart this year. So all of those great resources are available for you on the website, along with additional advocacy tools for you to keep up that sort of advocacy push. And as you said earlier, Tim, that ongoing advocacy work day after day. And I'm really proud of one piece that we did this past spring called Arts Education is Essential. And we now have more than 110 national organizations that have signed on. Your local state Music Education Association can sign on, as can your local school district at this point in time. So we're taking sign-ons from the state and local level if you want to kind of pledge to the importance of arts education, including music education at this moment in time.
So there's an endless amount of information. You just have to go to it.
Right. NAFME.org. Just go visit. And if you can't find anything, you can always give me a call. That's what I'm here for.
Well, and in support of Lynn, she'll answer the phone and talk to you too. You won't get in one of those dial 3 if you want somebody who speaks Spanish or whatever. This together. Do you think they'll advocate for our programs?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, the cool thing is when that happens, right, I get to retire. And but I'll actually go back to an early part in my career. I was a new staffer at the State Arts Agency, the Arizona Commission on the Arts. And I was standing in our resource library, and I ran into, you probably knew her well, Barbara Andrus, who had just retired from teaching music ed at Arizona State University. And she was doing some research in our back archives. And I turned to her, and I must have been all of, I don't know, like 26 or 27. And I was like, Barbara, when, it's so frustrating. When will people just believe in music education so we no longer advocate? And she just looked at me, she's like, we've been having to advocate for music education since World War II. We will always have to do it, Lynn. So what are you going to do about it? It's like, we're going to have to do it. In essence, get on board. What are you going to do? How are you going to make a difference? And in fact, that's what I've been trying to do ever since.
Well, I think there's a positive to this is that we get to share our stories with the parents and the administrators. And, I'm not sure I see other academic teachers running in with, well, here, it's going to improve. Because, it kind of gets exciting for me.
It is. And if you think about it, as you were just sharing, this is about celebrating what we do in our classroom, then it's not scary, right? It's bringing forward those ideas. It's celebrating, it's sharing, it's lifting up what your students are doing, and maybe having a little active translation, helping administrators and school board members understand what's going on, the process behind the music making. They may know what the final product is, but they may not know how hard it is to get there. And again, if you can help tell that story or help your students tell that story, it speaks, I think, to the impact that music educators are having each and every day in the classroom.
Through that information, not insist every child has
Right.
music somewhere along the way, right? You just can't if you're a parent of any kind of responsibility. I mean, my kid's got to have that. I'm going to take another left turn because, God, this is so exciting. I need to go 3 hours in this one. The talk about, and obviously Consumer is doing all the Division of Education things to want to hook with the educational world. Talk about what you see as the importance of music industry and music education working together.
Oh, yeah. Um, One doesn't exist without the other, right? I mean, it's a lovely, and I often giggle about this term because it's overused in business, but it truly is a synergistic relationship, right? There really is synergy there. Music industry partners provide expertise. Not only are they the music makers and the manufacturers and the merchants, but they have expertise about how to work with the instruments that they're selling or creating, models that they have seen, right? Because you're all out working with a variety of schools across a variety of states, and so you can bring models to other music educators. And I always think that's really important. It's not that everyone's not doing great work, but you can always learn from someone down the road or the next state over. And again, I think our industry partners help with that work so beautifully. And they also are members of our community, right? So our industry partners are members of our community, and frankly, at this moment in time in the United States, often industry partners are more listened to, unfortunately, than we are who are in the education profession. And so they can be our advocacy partners at the table. You all are our advocacy partners at the table. And at the national level, right, Consum was part of our music education policy roundtable. So when my colleagues, when Tushar or Rob are meeting with people on Capitol Hill, they are talking about the fact that what we're asking for is supported by industry. And we talk about those numbers and who all backs those asks. And it makes it much more, it helps us gain entree to some offices that we might not otherwise, and it helps us make the case. And again, that happens at the state level and down at the local school district level, the community level. So working with your partners, with the merchant, with whomever you work with, who provides your instruments, who does your repairs, who connects with you, bringing them to the table, having them reach out to school board members and have those conversations, all of that matters and strengthens the advocacy case for music education.
Yeah, we're back to our friend communication again. So, just something you do is develop a trust relationship with your local
Absolutely.
dealer and so forth, because you're getting synergy. It's 1 + 1 = 5 when you have the opportunity to do that.
Right. Yep.
Um, when you look to the future, knowing where we are now, what do you see happening for the arts and those of us who are part of it?
That's a great question. I'm just excited when we can all be back together, right? I mean, we are an ensemble art form. It's awfully hard to be doing this individually. getting good practice in, hopefully everyone is, but it's different than coming together and rehearsing and being with your ensemble. Um, I'm not going to lie to you, Tim. The next 18 months are going to be rough.
Yeah.
Um, if we don't get additional help from the federal level, and if we continue to sit in a recession, state budgets are going to be badly bruised going into the 2021-2022 school year.
Mhm.
We are going to need all hands on deck to make the case for music and arts education locally. So I want everyone to start now. So we've got those stories well embraced by school boards and state legislatures by the time we get next school year, and budgetary decisions that might be in the spring or summer for next school year. And so that's the budgetary side. The other piece that I am concerned about is thinking what our administrators will be going through as hopefully next school year we get all students back in the building with us. So these are students that maybe they got to see this current school year, maybe they didn't get to see them in person, certainly not for the full year in most places. Plus they had that whole sort of maybe learning that happened the 6 months prior at the end of the 2020 school year, right? They're going to be really concerned about learning loss. They may be having to deal with an accountability system that's going to stand back up. So all of a sudden, it might feel a lot, Tim, like we've stepped back into, I don't know, the early days of No Child Left Behind,
Yeah, yeah.
where almost every kid's going to be put into remediation because we're so fearful that they're not going to pass the statewide tests and we're going to fail on the accountability system. So part of what I'm starting to imagine with our policy team is what asks can we make from maybe the U.S. Department of Education? Can we get flexibility and waivers again for yet another year for accountability system? That's going to be a big ask, but I think we should be making it. And then reminding our administrators that while we're not one of the tested subject areas, we provide the glue that's going to recreate that sense of community for the school. And we are so important for kids in terms of their social and emotional well-being as they gather back together again. And that we are central to what's going to make that school successful, even if we aren't on the test that year. And we're going to have to make that case and have to make it because administrators are going to be stressed to the gourd, and they're going to be on the edge. I mean, they're stressed now. I can't imagine it's going to be like when those accountability measures come back into place next school year. And so honoring that, understanding that, but also having to step up to say why we're important too, even though we're not one of the tested subject areas.
Absolutely.
Sorry, that was a lot.
No, it's just the whole thing that we can't sit and wait.
No.
We can't just kind of hope, the good fairy will come along and sprinkle
Right.
dust or whatever. Last question, and this is something that's so important. If I'm a young teacher, I mean, look what those young teachers are facing now. They go out their first or second year. What advice would you have, Lynn, to help that young teacher know how important it is to connect to the national organization now rather than 18 years from now or whatever?
Oh, that's great. Well, first of all, I will say that our current president, Dr. Mackie Spradley, wants to hear from you if you're a young teacher. She deeply values the young members of our profession, those that are in pre-service, our collegiate members, and those that are newly in the field. She believes very strongly that the National Association is for all, not just those that have been around for a long time and have gray in their hair and are in the leadership positions. In fact, as she works through our strategic visioning process and strategic planning process, she's going to reach out to you, to younger members, to all members for your voice and for your ideas. So now's the time to bring those ideas forward. You can give us ideas for professional development. You can give us ideas on advocacy and strategy. You can ask us questions, but we also want to learn from you. I think the new teachers have a lot to offer. Talk about folks who are going to be incredibly flexible, on their feet, creative teachers, right? If you are coming into the teaching profession right now, this is your second or third or first year, you're going to be amazing in terms of and adept at ways to manage your classroom, think about repertoire, think about standards, think about curriculum in ways that most of us, it took us multiple years to get there. So we want to learn from you. We want to encourage you. We want you to be connected. We want you to tell us what you need. You are the future of the profession. We need to take care from you, and we need to hear from you so we know how best to do that.
Oh, I mean, that's great. Yeah. Where were you when I started teaching? I needed to hear from you then. Um, well, I guess all questions are selfish, but this, what you bring again to the buffet of understanding is endless. Can we coax you into doing this again sometime?
Sure, I'd be happy to do it again.
Because things are organic, they're moving.
Oh, they're changing rapidly.
Right. So in 6 months, you're going to have new
It's, yep,
information that we can like
yep.
get on everybody else. Lynn, thanks for doing this. I mean, really, thanks. What
You're
again, what
welcome.
you share is what we all need to know, and you give it from a perspective that most of us don't think about. And it's wonderful.
Oh,
So
thank you.
have a good day.
You
We'll
too.
send another invitation soon. And just thanks for doing it. And for all of you, thanks for listening in. This is one you want to listen to several times, by the way. All right. Best, see you next time at Backstage. Let the music begin. Let's go for it.